What's going on, YouTube? JT Jaborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Task Force Z, issue number 10. This one's written by Matthew Rosenberg, and a couple other people worked on the art and coloring, and so on and so forth. But basically, this is issue 10, or chapter 10 of this whole, 12-issue miniseries that's going to be. I think it ends in 2 months, per se. So it wasn't too long of a series, but there definitely is a lot that happens within this issue, and kind of what happens a lot in the other issues of Task Force Z. Some of it has been engaging, some of it I think has been not so great, but it's definitely had its moments. My favorite issue, I think, was at issue 8, where it was just Jason kind of interacting off various members of the Bat family. I thought there was a lot of good humor in there, and even with this story here, there's some bits of humor that I think work quite well. But one issue I do have with Task Force Z in general is it's kind of hard to follow. I mean, that could just be me. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that while reading this particular story. I find myself kind of lost. I think they kind of overstuff a little bit of dialogue and plot into each issue. Like, for instance, this past week I read the most recent issue of Robin. Now, Robin is one of my favorite books at DC, but I think with that thing, there's a good balance between dialogue and visual storytelling. I think Task Force Z at times can be a little bit dialogue heavy. I'm reading a story, I understand that, but this is a comic book, it's a visual medium, and I don't think you need to tell as much as you can show, but I think sometimes Task Force Z kind of comes into an issue like that. No, I don't mind it for a few pages here and there, but sometimes there is just a little bit too much going on with the characters describing things and kind of going into various details. I feel like sometimes the dialogue can cover up some of the glorious art that I'm looking at. Like, for instance, this page here on the right, look at it. It's almost all, the majority of the page is made up of text, and I can't really get a good look at the art per se. I get they're having a conversation, but I feel like you could kind of trim things down a little bit, or maybe space this out over a couple pages. But there's a lot of story in that happens within this thing. There's a lot of flashbacks, a lot of time jumps back and forth, and in my opinion, it can get a little bit tough to follow, per se. That's just me. I don't know if anybody else has that complaint, but that's just kind of something I've kind of noticed while reading Task Force Z. There's definitely some good moments in here for sure. There's a very funny moment between Solomon Grundy and Mr. Bloom. This issue also does a good job finally explaining the whole Bane situation in a reveal that I never really would have expected, when it comes to Bane and how he's been alive this whole time, brought back from the dead. Because remember back in the pages of, Infinite Frontier, Bane was apparently one of the victims in the whole Arkham Day incident, but it turns out his death was faked, and he showed up in the Joker book, so Bane was kind of the big surprise there. But I was left scratching my head for the past few months. How is Bane alive in the Joker book, but he's also showing up in Task Force Z? It's not really making too much sense to me. Are there two Banes? Is there a fake Bane? Well, we come to find out that the Bane in Task Force Z is, in fact, a fake Bane, and it's none other than Gotham. That's right, Gotham and Gotham Girls. Was it her brother or lover? I don't quite remember. That's part of the Tom King Batman book from a really long time ago. At this point, there's a lot of that run I generally try to forget, but yeah, so Bane this whole time has been Gotham. I think that was the means to kind of get Jason Todd onto the Task Force Z team, but Mr. Bloom's there. He also showcases that he has some sort of mind control ability with some of the Task Force Z criminals. Why he didn't utilize this earlier is beyond me, unless I missed something. Again, there is a lot of story and plot that happens within these issues of Task Force Z to the point where I could probably miss things. Whereas when I think of Task Force Z, this book in general, I think this is a book you kind of have to read each issue back to back immediately. Otherwise, you're probably going to forget things like I am. This is probably something I'm going to have to read every issue right before the finale comes out, because I've been covering it each month, and I try and go back and go through the previous issue before I go to the next one, but there is so much that kind of happens, and it's not exactly a simple story. There's just so many different moving parts within it, and I feel like sometimes it feels kind of a little bit overstuffed, not to an absolute extreme, but it's not exactly a simple story to follow, and I think it can get a little bit convoluted at times, in my humble opinion. But there's still some good elements here. It's not exactly a bad story. I'm not saying it's terrible or anything like that, but at times it can get a little convoluted, and I think in that regards, I sometimes lose track of the plot, and I kind of lose interest if it gets a little too much at times, at least for me. and it just at times can be a little hard to follow, and I think that kind of takes me out of the story at times. There's issues that have definitely won me over. I was kind of losing interest for a while, and then that one issue came up that I thought was actually really good. Was it issue 8, I think, when it was Jason and other members of the Bat Family kind of interacting off each other? I thought that was really, really good and had some genuinely really funny moments. But there's been other issues that kind of just drag on and just kind of throw so much at it. And I'm just kind of left wondering, like, what is the end goal of this story at this point? I feel like I've kind of lost the plot myself, per se. But there's only 2 issues left, I believe. We're getting close to the end, and then after this, I'm excited to see what's next for Jason Todd, because I feel like he's been kind of caught up in this Task Force Z storyline for quite a while now. This has been basically his solo book. I still think that the idea of like a zombie Suicide Squad is probably a really dumb idea and is going to go poorly, which, as I think I said in like my issue 1 review, it's been so long at this point, but it really hasn't been the smartest idea. Why they're doing it is just kind of beyond me. Mr. Bloom can be kind of fun at times in terms of a villain. There's one genuinely really funny moment with Grundy on here. Then you have Waller, then you have Two-Face. There's just a lot kind of going on in here. But I am interested to see how this whole thing kind of comes to a conclusion. See if maybe Gotham Girl shows up because of Gotham being alive as kind of a zombie Bane thing. There's just so much going on here. So we'll see how it all turns out. Only a few issues left. I'm ready to see how this thing concludes, and hopefully it'll be pretty good. Artwork is pretty decent. Not my favorite in terms of like artwork at DC Comics, but there's still some good stuff in here for sure. But yeah, so I mean, my thoughts are kind of all over the place with this one. Like I said, I've kind of lost interest in a lot of ways in Task Force Z. There's been like one issue that really stood out to me, but it hasn't been a full-fledged like home run for me per se. It's not a bad series by any stretch of the means. It just, it maybe could have been a little bit stronger. Maybe could have simplified things a little bit more. Or maybe that's just me, like, just being kind of clueless. I don't know. You tell me in the comment section. I feel like I'm kind of scatterbrained all over the place with this whole Task Force Z storyline. But I'm just saying how I kind of feel when it comes to this thing. I do want to like the series a little bit more. It's just not doing enough to kind of engage me enough with it all. So maybe if it simplified things a little bit more, it would work a little bit more for me. But as it stands, like I said, Task Force Z this week, I thought was just kind of all right. There's some good stuff in here. I think the Grundy exchange with Mr. Bloom in particular was very funny, and I like the fact that it cleared the air on the whole Bane thing. I guess sometimes you just kind of have to wait sometimes for things to give you the full-fledged answers. I was a little frustrated when I didn't get those answers in the Joker book, and I was just kind of like left waiting, like, are we ever going to get a reveal as to what's going on with Bane? I'd be really ticked off if we didn't, because they'd be like, well, what's going on here? But at least this issue cleared the air on it, and it kind of makes sense in its own kind of strange, weird way. But yeah, so anyways, what are your thoughts on Task Force Z number 10? I'm sorry I've rambled on for so long, and I'm sure a lot of people left wondering, like, what does he really think of this thing? Like, I'm kind of confused myself on his thoughts, but hey, I'm just, I hit record, and then I just start running my mouth off. So, yeah. All right. Well, those are my thoughts on Task Force Z number 10. Kind of an all-over-the-place video, and I apologize for that. But if you have any thoughts on it, let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications. Be sure to come back next time. I think this is it in terms of comic book reviews for me for this week, and I'll see you all next time. Got some more stuff coming up next week. It might be a little bit different in terms of recording next week, given my schedule, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I'll be able to get some things out earlier on in the day. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, all that other fun stuff. And as always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.